always tell when a streak's going to come to an end. You win a couple of games, you probably shouldn't.
There are teams out there that could use that quality of playoff goaltending. All right, Ray, you ready to do this?
Yep, let's go.
Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, it is Season 7 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, and this is a special playoff edition presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back in the Tim Hortons app. You have a chance to win daily and monthly prizes for picking players who you think will score. This will drift into the playoffs as well. There's also a chance to win a new Hyundai Tucson as part of our grand prize. Hey, Canadians, try and keep that 7-day streak alive. You can win free coffee or tea for a week if you do. Check it all out, timhortons.ca, for a full list of prizes. Ray Ferraro, the playoff grind is right there. We're looking right at it. More of a grind for you than me. I probably won't really travel. Might do the Memorial Cup in Kelowna. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, but probably won't do much travel unless things heat up with Montreal, Ottawa, or Edmonton towards the conference finals. But you, my friend, you've got the travel. You've got back-to-backs. You've got the potential of multiple overtimes. I mean, this is fun for you. I know you love your work. You love what you do. You love the anticipation, the excitement around the Stanley Cup playoffs. But going in, there's uncertainty. And there's, I don't know, when you get into the routine, you're in the routine, right? And that's what it is. And you live in it and you love it. But it's, is it amping yourself up at this point that can be a little bit of a challenge?
No, you know what the challenge is right now is you feel like you have to put together all this information to be dialed in for game one of the series. But I don't really know which series I'm doing yet because, well, I kind of know which series I'm doing, but I don't know when they are because nothing's been finalized, even as it sits Thursday morning. And you do all this work and then, and that's part of the prep and part of the fun. Like, I don't say, oh, I got to do it, but it's like, it's really fun to do it. You get all this stuff together. And then once game one's over, none of the regular season matters. Nobody cares if Joe Blow scored 37 goals in the regular season. Nobody cares. He didn't score in game one. He hasn't scored in game two, and he better get going because they're done by game three. And so there's a great line from Daryl Sutter had a million fabulous lines.
Like he did.
And one of them was, if you're not ready in the first round, it's a waste of 8 days. I think that is
that was against Colorado, I think, wasn't it? Or whoever plays Colorado.
Because whoever plays Colorado, it's a waste of 8 days. And I just think like everything is so urgent right now. And I love it. So I'm going to bounce back and forth, it looks like, between a couple series. And I love doing it. And man, all year we're like, oh, it's the dog days, and then we had the 3-week Olympic break, and
long year.
Now the sprint starts, though. This is the great stuff.
All right, well, let's get into it in headlines. Brought to you by the Canadian Brew House. Real fans know the move, and that move is you arrive early. Happy hour at the Canadian Brew House runs Monday to Saturday, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., starting at $3.99. So skip the couch, hit the Canadian Brew House. It's your home for every puck drop and every cheer. Ice cold drinks, massive screens, the best fans in town. This hockey season, their house is your arena. And we're going to go through series by series. And we know what look like, but there's some stuff as we record this episode Thursday morning that still needs to get worked out on the final night of the NHL regular season. First, Ray, reaction to one or two coaches who made it clear this week that their teams didn't compete in the final games of the regular season. Maybe there's more to it, but that's the picture that was painted. We start with Columbus head coach Rick Bowness. I mean, we've all seen the video clip post-game, right? Where he literally was struggling to compose himself in unleashing on the Blue Jackets. So as a former player, I'm asking, are you good with what he said? because he essentially said that his team gave up. In the end, they gave up. Or as that player, is it too much in the heat of the moment? I loved it as a media person, but put yourself in that room as a player. Are you accepting the responsibility of what he said because it's true? Or are you pissed off because, okay, you know what? You go to the cameras and you can't say whatever you want, but don't bury us in the process. Was it too much?
Well, two ways to think of it, or two parts that go into this. The first thing is the depending on the relationship that the players and Bowness have. That will kind of steer the reaction. But my first
Mhm.
thought was as a player was F you. Like, are you kidding me? Seriously? Maybe we're just
Mm.
not good enough. Like, there's you have to realize, I think anyway, you know that amazing run that they put together when Bonus took over?
Yeah.
That's not the Blue Jackets either. Like nobody plays at that pace for the whole season. And did he expect really for them to play at that pace for the last 20 games of the year? That would make them one of the greatest teams of the decade.
Mhm.
And like they're not. They're just not. So it felt like too much to me. It felt clear. Look, we've known Rick for a long, long time. He's
Yeah.
he's a passionate, 90% of the time, really positive guy, and he snapped like
Yeah.
that. But it also felt to me that who exactly is he talking to? Is he talking to the players or is he talking to Don Waddell? Because
Right.
he's talking to one of two people or one of
Yeah.
two groups. And when he says, I don't know if I'm going to be back next year, part of that has to be that I am coming back.
And I think he
And
is. Yeah.
but I mean, I think that's part of the message. And
Yeah.
so he's firing a shot over the bow of the players that this is not the way it's going to go down next year. So this is over. This year's over. Next year will not have some of the softer edges.
Yeah.
Bonus is look. He's at one point we were like, man, if this keeps going, he's going to be a coach of the year candidate. But
Yeah.
it can't keep going. The 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 beauty of the NHL season is it will expose your team at some point what their weaknesses are. And for
Mhm.
Columbus, they're just not good enough. And this is 25 years in Columbus of the same thing.
Yeah.
And so that should be that hockey market should that's a good hockey market. It really is.
Mhm.
They've never gotten to a successful run. They were close when they had Panarin and Bobrovsky and that, but that's a long time ago now. I thought it was wild that he went at his team like that, though.
He did. So now we go to Detroit and another veteran coach in Todd McLellan, who Wednesday night looked like he wanted to tear somebody's head
Yeah.
off. And rightly so. I mean, embarrassed 8-1 by the Florida Panthers. Todd didn't sound off the way that Bowness did, but, you know, he did acknowledge that obviously something has to change in Detroit. And, he talked about the winning pedigree of the Florida Panthers.
Right.
Both those teams going into that game, non-playoff participants, but you still have to play with a level of pride. And he didn't see that. We didn't see that in the outcome of the game and the way that the Red Wings played. But no differently than I don't think than Columbus. This becomes more of a management issue, doesn't it? I mean, they've been looking for a centerman to help Dylan Larkin
Mm.
forever, and they haven't found those
Yeah.
pieces. Maybe it's not one guy, right?
Oh, it's not
S-
one guy. Look, I did 4 Detroit games down the stretch, and they flopped in 3 of them. Like they didn't win 3 of them.
yeah,
Um, 2 things were very evident. I mean, now Larkin was hurt and kind of dragging himself around the best he could, but they clearly are short at least one centerman for sure.
yeah,
The second thing is, and the narrative around the around the Red Wings and their championship teams were, the highly skilled, the Russians, Yzerman,
Yeah.
and all those. There was always a portion of the Red Wings that when they didn't have the puck, it's in one of those great nights where everything went their way, Darren McCarty and Kirk Maltby and Chris Draper would run around, and they had Konstantinov for a stretch. Like, they were tough.
Yeah.
There was a competitive spirit to almost any championship team. And the Detroit Red Wings, as they're constructed, I don't see that.
Yeah.
They're not, and McLellan's been talking about it for a while. They're not a good 5-on-5 team. 5-on-5, a lot of it is how you compete and get the puck back and fight your way to the front of the net. And I don't know that they have enough of that. And if we're going to compare them to Florida, Florida's got it in by the bucket, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what Florida have. Florida's not the most talented team. When they're healthy, they're among the very most competitive teams. They compete for every inch of the ice. And I think that would be real. Well, not I think, I know it is. It's really frustrating for Todd because we saw him vent off on it. I mean, those are two veteran guys, Bowness and McLellan, that were not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, clearly, and one was more vocal than the other. But for anyone who knows Todd as well as we know Todd, you could tell that he was a millimeter from snapping. He just was a bit more composed. All right, here we go. Eastern playoffs, they're set, ready to roll.
Yep.
So let's start looking at each best of 7 series. We'll start with the Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Right.
I mean, just cut short here. I mean, do you want to give the Lightning the edge simply because of the goaltending, the experience, all of that, or has Montreal earned much more respect based on what they've done to this point?
Well, we're going to have to pick a team, so right, like, so somebody's going to get an edge somewhere, right? Like
yes.
But I don't see this as a really experienced team and a really inexperienced team. Montreal was in the playoffs last year. They're young, but they're not inexperienced. They've already been there once. They know what it looks like. Jakub Dobish had to come into that Washington series, and so he's been in the playoffs before. Demidov has seen a playoff series. 5 games into his NHL career, he was in a playoff series. So I think Montreal's young and inexperienced. No, they're not inexperienced. They're just young. I think they'll provide plenty. Their speed will provide plenty of problems for Tampa.
Okay.
Tampa's health is a big question. Darren Radish, he needs to be able to play. I mean, he's in their top pair. And if he can't play, that's a real loss for them. Montreal, we know, is not going to have Noah Dobson. That's a big loss for them. I just give Tampa the slightest of edge in this series. I think it's a really, really competitive series. Discipline will play a big part in it. We saw 2 weeks ago, Tampa kind of went over the edge a little bit and they were shorthanded 7 or 8 times. I don't think that'll happen, but emotion and physicality will be a part of this series. I give Tampa just the slightest of edge.
Yeah, me too. So what is that? 7 or 6 games?
I always think in these toss-up series, it goes to, because of the extra home game. But I don't think it's a 7-game series. I think Tampa wins game 6 in Montreal.
Okay. The Ottawa Senators ended the regular season with a win over the Toronto Maple Leafs in a Battle of Ontario that really wasn't this year. We talked a fair bit about the Ottawa Senators and the style of their forecheck and how aggressive they are defensively on Tuesday as part of the podcast. And, I got thinking in terms of the matchup, and we reflected a bit on that Tuesday as well with the Hurricanes. At least offense, overall, maybe they're similar styles, aren't they? They're similar styles. But again, I keep waiting for the Carolina Hurricanes to not only go deep, they go deep. Like they're a very, very well-built team,
Yep.
well-coached team, all of that. But as much as I would like to see the Ottawa Senators prevail from a Canadian perspective, I'm not cheerleading here. There still is something about Carolina that I think
Yeah.
is there. Like they're ready, maybe overripe ready for a trip to the Stanley Cup final, but very similar styles. What do you see?
I do. I'll pick Carolina in this series. Two things worry me from a Carolina perspective, and they're the same two things that they've been for the last couple of years. And it's their goalie, whoever
Yeah.
that might be. Because what really good team, which Carolina is, goes into the playoffs every year and you're not really sure who their goalie is? It's Carolina. It's year after year. The second
Yeah.
thing is they do not have a standalone scorer.
Yeah.
They don't score easy. It takes them, it's volume of shots, it's work, it's retrieval. Like
Yeah.
it's hard sometimes for them to score. And I always have in my head, if they had an easy scorer, somebody that you don't notice for a long time,
Yeah.
and then boom, he gets a chance and it's in the net, I think it would help them immensely. The guy I always have in my head, and it's not to say, oh, I think could happen, but is a guy like Jason Robertson.
Yeah.
I watch Jason Robertson play a lot. I've done a lot of Dallas games, and I'm constantly amazed that there are times he just doesn't look like he's a force in the game, and then you go, oh, he's got a goal and 2 assists.
Yeah.
Because he has a knack for just appearing at the right time. Like it's a real skill. And Carolina doesn't have guys like that. So I think that would be the one weakness for them that I always see about them. But it's not about the first round, it's about the third round when I see that. I think this has a chance to be watching paint dry, this series.
Just because they neutralize each other?
Yes, that they check
Yeah.
each other into submission. And I think this has a chance to be a whole bunch of 2-1 games. Now, it might
Okay.
not, but I think
Yeah.
it's a really tight. Look, I'm going to say this a lot, I guess we will, but the series will mostly, I think they'll all be tight. Like, look at the
Yeah.
point separation of the teams.
Yeah.
And there's only one or two series where you go, oh, that could be a mismatch. Most of them look like they're coin flips.
Yeah. So I agree. Carolina. What are we talking? Again, in that 6-game territory?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. Ottawa will win games in this series.
Sure.
Ottawa has a chance in this series. I
Yeah.
really believe it.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned before, like, Olmark's got to be good.
Yeah.
He can't be okay. He's got to be good. Their part of their vision was to bring him in and to give them playoff style goaltending. And he has of late. He really has. I think he's 5-0-1 his last 6 starts, and they need him in this series.
Okay, moving on to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And, again, recently on the pod, we reflected on what once was a battle, right? And this series is going to have those moments. It's going to be fun because you're talking about two cities, two markets that don't like each other much. I don't think that it elevates to the vintage of Claude Giroux with the Flyers in that battle with Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. But we know there's no love lost between these two. So that in and of itself, breeds a level of drama, I think, going in. Or at least we should expect it, shouldn't we?
Oh, I don't see any way it won't be. Like, when Crosby shows up in Philadelphia for game 3, that place will be nuts. Will be crazy. And so when I look at the Flyers, they're virtually the same points wise, Pittsburgh and Philly, right? But at the trade deadline, or right thereabouts, Philly added 2 top 6 forwards. They added Porter Martone, who came out of college, and he's made a real impact on them. And then they got Tyson Forster back. So the deadline might have not looked like much, but they got 2 top 6 forwards back. Like, that changes their team. They have a goaltending edge in Dan Vladar.
It's
what a
been good.
trade, what an acquisition that turned out to be for the Flyers.
Yeah.
Um, and a little sidebar storyline is a couple years ago when the Canucks went to the second round and lost in Game 7 against the Oilers. Rick Tocchet's goalie was Artur Shilovs, who's in Pittsburgh now, because the Canucks had lost Thatcher Demko, and then they
Yeah.
lost Casey DeSmith, and by default, like Shilovs was the only guy with skates left, and they're like, "You got to be our goalie." He had not played an NHL game, I don't believe, or had played one, and they went all the way to Game 7 of the second round. So a little side story there: the Penguins have been one of the league's best stories this year.
Really
And
have been.
this is going to be. I think this has a potential to be one of the wildest, most unpredictable series. And I can't wait to
It's
get there.
going to be fun. It
Yeah,
really
this
is
is going to be one of the series I'll be on, and so
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So it's a flip 'em series, is what you're saying, which is tough to predict, right? I mean, Philadelphia's
Yeah,
been
well,
on a heater, though, right?
they have. Philly comes in playing as well as anybody, and
Yeah.
not for 5 games. This has been well over 20 games that they've played well. Their power play has not been great. One other
Yeah.
thing for Philly is after a season that was like stuck waist high in the mud,
Yeah.
Matvei Michkov has come
Oh,
alive here.
he
And
has.
so now really you're looking at 3 different forwards for the Flyers. And that changes the look of their team. I really have a tough time thinking that Crosby and
I know.
Malkin, and like he's had a great year. Carlson's been fabulous. I think I will pick Philly on the strength of I think their goaltending will be better.
Okay. Yeah.
But right now, so I've picked 3 teams, and I think I got a chance to go for 3. I hate my
Well,
picks.
what that it's
I hate
that's
them.
what makes the I do too. I do too. But we're
So who
forced
are you
into
picking
doing
here?
it. I'm going to go with the Penguins.
Oh,
And
good. We finally
only
gone apart. Yeah.
but again, just from a nostalgia perspective,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Of
You know,
course.
I just Crosby and Malkin. I mean, Malkin we know is done. Sid, there's question marks as to what his future looks like. I mean, he doesn't seem to age, so he may not go out anytime soon. But they look at it realistically, even though Dubas has done a commendable job of,
Great job, for sure.
and including hiring Dan Muse, who we'll talk about as part of the Jack Adams conversation later in headlines here. But a lot has gone right. A tremendous amount has gone right for the Penguins this year. So
Yeah.
but I do think this would be this one could go the distance, Ray, for me. It could go 7
Feels like
and
it,
end
doesn't it? Yeah.
in just theater type atmosphere. So,
Yeah.
all right. What about the Atlantic Division champion Buffalo Sabres?
Oh,
They'll
man.
face the
This
Bruins.
is fun. Doesn't this
Yeah.
seem like fun, this one?
Yeah. Yes, it should
Seems
be.
old.
It should
It
be.
seems old school to me, right?
Yeah.
Like this is older school, and Mayday,
Oh, yeah.
and all that stuff, right? Like this feels like the biggest contrast though to me
Yeah.
in the East, style wise. Like if
Okay. Yeah.
Boston does not want to get into Buffalo's game.
No.
They want to check. They want to, if we're talking a bunch of 4-3, 5-4 games, this is Buffalo's series. Like they're like Buffalo can score, they can skate. I do think there's going to be a unruliness to the early part of the series. None of these Buffalo guys have played in the playoffs for the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
So a little bit of hair on fire type of stuff.
Oh, could you imagine how excited they're going to be? That building's going to be jumping. It'll be fantastic.
Will it ever? Yeah.
So, but I think that's, to me, that's the biggest contrast. There's a definite edge in goal for Boston. Jeremy Swayman's had a fantastic year. And it is crazy to me that Buffalo's won the division and they used 3 goalies. Like, I think that is wild. And at one point we asked Lindy Ruff about it, and he said, look, there was no plan to that. Every time somebody would get, it would look like we were going to get all 3 goalies back, somebody would get injured And then we're like, well, really, we only have two. It's these two.
Yeah.
And then like they picked up Colton Ellis on waivers, and Luukkonen got hurt. And so they had Ellis and Lyon, and then Lyon got hurt, and then Ellis got hurt. And through it all, they got way over 100 points. It's been a great story. I don't know why I think Buffalo's going to win this series.
Me too.
Like I don't know why I feel like, yeah, I think they're going to win in 5 games.
Ooh, I'd have said I would say 6, but I could see 5.
But
Yeah.
but I it's not. But Boston is, they're a team of survivors. Like they play the game, they survive games, they're tough, they're they hang in there, they get just enough offense, and they've got a great goalie. But I'm looking forward to seeing in the playoffs, honestly, 2 guys for Buffalo are Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin.
Mm.
I think these are 2 tremendous players, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And we've seen the Bruins play in the playoffs. We know, like, Pasternak's an amazing player, and McAvoy's one of the game's best. But the key for Boston will be Pavel Zacha.
Mm.
And
It's had a good year.
Really good year, over 30 goals. Here's one other thing. If people feel like looking at one of the, as a guy that never killed penalties, a funny clip. Late in the year, Boston and Buffalo are playing. Buffalo's on a power play, and Tage Thompson shoots 5 one-timers in a row. It was like a shooting machine. And poor Andrew Peak has to go out there every time and try and block this missile. And it kept missing the net and going around, and then right back to Thompson again. If Boston's the most penalized team in the league, if they do that against Buffalo,
Yeah.
no bueno.
It's over.
No bueno. Yeah.
Okay, lots on the line tonight, Thursday night in the Pacific Division. I'll try and clear up some of this, okay?
So you've got the Oilers. Are you going to do this? Are you going to clear this up? Are you? Okay, good for you.
Because if we go through all of the possibilities, it'll take us 30 minutes. So I'll do it, and then I'll ask you who you think Edmonton's best matchup is. So you've got Oilers, Ducks, and Kings all in the mix for second in the division. Oilers need 1 point versus Vancouver, or the loss of any kind by both LA and Anaheim. For the Ducks to claim second, they need to beat Nashville, Edmonton lose to Vancouver, and then for LA to climb, they need to beat Calgary. The Oilers need to lose in regulation to Vancouver, and Anaheim would have to lose in any fashion. Okay, so that's all the possibilities that could unfold.
You just sounded like my grade 10 biology teacher. I got no idea what you're talking about anymore.
So let's simplify it as best we can. There is the possibility Oilers face the Los Angeles Kings, and this would be a 5th straight year between LA and Edmonton. I mean, when you look at the possibilities, what do you see? What's the best situation for the Oilers going into this?
Like, which team would create the least problems?
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah. Okay.
LA. Now, LA plays different since March 1st when DJ Smith took over. They are nowhere near as passive a team. They added Panarin, and Panarin's made Kempe a more dangerous player. But they give up more and they score more.
Right.
So it's a different LA team. But I think of the 3 teams that my preference would be to play LA.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly would be to play Anaheim. And third would be to play Utah. I think Utah could be a real pain. Like of the teams that maybe aren't thought of in the top or echelon of the conference, Utah, I think, could really sting some people.
Yeesh. I think so too. And they look like, and we'll talk about that series, Vegas, Utah momentarily, but and they're on the
like
uptick,
I'm talking about
right?
on the way for Edmonton. If you get through that first round, and somewhere along the line, I just think Utah in the West, they're the one team that it's easy to go, oh, that's a nice little story. But I do think I do think they're really dangerous.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
not a comfortable series. I know we'll get to Vegas later, but that's not a comfortable series for anyone.
No.
I think the Oilers are going to be good enough to get through the first round. The encouraging thing is, as you see the little video of Draisaitl skating, he
Yeah.
looks like he's closer and closer. And I mean, I'm talking about the addition of Harder Mortone and Tyson Forster for Philly.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Oilers drop a healthy Draisaitl back into the mix, and you're like,
It makes a
that's
huge difference.
That's a
Yeah.
different team. Change everything.
Edmonton, Anaheim, would that, if you're an Oilers fan, would that cause you a little bit of pause because you see a little bit of everything from the Anaheim Ducks?
Well, that's why I don't like. I think that's why it's not as. I guess it could be scary, but you see a bit of everything from Anaheim. Good,
Right.
bad. The game goes sideways. They get the game back. They're the inexperienced young buck team that I think needs some experience before they can,
Yeah.
they can make their mark. At the deadline, they went out and got John Carlson. I think John can still play and be effective. But to me, it was an admission that we can't fix the way we play defensively at the deadline. So we're going all into this style. And I think the Oilers will check too well for Anaheim because I don't think Anaheim will check well enough. I guess for the Oilers, the one thing not to skip over is under no circumstance was the goalie plan to have Connor Ingram as their starter.
Right.
But he's been the best guy.
He has been.
And I think by a considerable margin. And so goaltending is a discussion point for sure in Edmonton.
And Nate McKinnon and the Colorado Avalanche, you're just sitting back and going, yeah, whatever. Just let us know where we're going, what we're doing.
Yeah.
We know we'll be at home for a couple of games, and then it doesn't really matter. Just bring it on.
Yeah, I do believe whoever they play, it might be Daryl Sutter's 8 days of wasted time. One thing I would put into mark for people to think about is check out Colorado's record in the last 25 games or so. It's not that great.
No.
Like they ran and lapped the field in the first 45 games of the season, and it didn't matter what they did coming down the stretch. They're not set in goal either. And before it's all said and done, that's going to be part of their story.
Okay. How about Dallas, Minnesota? I mean, this is going to be one of the good ones in round one. And Exhibit A for that argument, and we talk about it and media talk about it, for the need for change in the playoff format and all that, just because you've got two really good teams here. And there is uncertainty around Dallas going into that series.
Yeah.
Roope Hintz, Miro Heiskanen. I mean, granted, they had injury issues starting the playoffs last year. So we'll see how that plays out for Glenn Gulletson and the Dallas Stars. But Billy Guerin did what he had to do, and then some, in building a roster that is a contending team and a really good Minnesota Wild squad. So is this a pick'em series, or do you still want to?
Sorry, Drake. Sorry, I was just going to say
go ahead.
the most pick'em of pick'ems.
Yeah.
I do think that if Heiskanen is compromised, that's an enormous blow to Dallas. He plays so much, and he is so good. Every year I look at the Norris ballot, and some years I don't have him on my top 5, and I'm like, how could that possibly be? Like, how could that be? This guy is so good. And I guess if he's compromised and or Hintz is the same, I pick Minnesota. Like I think that would be my pick. I'm going to take the Wild. I have zero confidence in why I'm taking them.
Yeah.
I would say a tipping point would be if what Minnesota should do when they go into Dallas for game 1, I'm not even kidding, is they should wear the old Minnesota North Star uniforms.
Ooh,
like, Those are
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best. Those are the
So
best.
good.
What are they thinking? Those other ones look like a wet blanket. The dark green or whatever, forest green, what get the bright ones in there. Makes them all look
Yeah.
faster. That could
So
be the
I
difference in
look,
the series.
could be, yes. I mean, you need that edge, some sort of
Sure,
emotional
whatever.
boost.
Look
Yeah.
good, feel
I
good.
I I'm with you in the pick 'em format here of this one. I'm going with Dallas, and only because I'm trying to maintain consistency. I had Dallas going to the conference final at
Right.
the start of the year, and I don't have any reason at this point not to think that that's possible again. So that's all I got. It's not really a constructive breakdown of one team versus the other strengths weaknesses. I'm just selfishly saying I want to look smart from my
Well,
prognosticating at the beginning of the year.
one other edge for Dallas in the coaching department. Great hair on Glenn Gulletson.
Oh, that's flow. Yeah.
And John Hines is a man after my own heart. I like Hinesy's hairdo. Right to the wood. I'm not that
Right
far
to
away,
the
and
wood.
I'm like, yeah, boy, Hinesy, good work.
Vegas. We'll go back and touch on that one. Vegas and Utah. So Vegas wins the Pacific for a fifth time in
Mhm.
franchise history. I mean, the coach bump is obvious here with
Right.
John Tortorella. Shocking that he's back on a bench. Whatever. I mean, we don't need to dissect the decision behind the coaching change to fire Bruce Cassidy and then go with the experience and the fieriness of John Tortorella. But it's worked, and maybe it's simply worked because it's a reminder to the players, right, that it's on them. It's on
Yeah.
them to figure it out. But the results have been there since that coaching change, and given the level of experience in that Vegas lineup, this is going to be a fun series to watch unfold as well.
It is. Now, since Torts got there, much better goaltending, which has been a dodgy subject for Vegas for a
Yeah.
while. I mean, going back to last year's playoffs, even. And the one thing about Utah that is always for me anyway that I look at is I watch Karel Vejmelka play goal, and
Yeah.
it's like he's got tape on the bottom of his skates. I mean, like he's all over the place in there, but he led the league or right near the very top with Vasilevskiy and wins this year. Like he
Yeah.
stops the puck. It just
Right.
doesn't, it's almost Hasek like. Like he's all over the place and then eventually he freezes the puck and you're like, oh. So I'm curious to see how that holds up. Now Vegas is not a crazy high volume shot team, and I think that helps Vejmelka a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, as I said earlier, I think Utah is really dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I they're fast. They can score from various parts in their lineup. Their defense is pretty good. Um, Underrated coach in Andrei Tourné. Underrated. Like I bet you. Well, I don't. I was going to say a percentage, but a lot of people wouldn't know the guy's name that coaches Utah.
No,
And
that's right.
and he's good. He's good. I I don't I don't know that Utah experience wise will settle into the series quick enough before
Okay.
before it costs them. Now they may. If they do, I
Yeah.
think they can win. If they settle into that series quick enough, I think they can win. But I think I I think there's a danger they could chase the series a little bit.
Hmm.
Get behind early and then have to now you got to win 4 out of 5, something like that. If Utah splits the first 2 games, I think they win the series.
Oof. Okay. All right. I think Vegas is they're gonna feed off that momentum. I do.
You think so? Yeah.
And I do, and I get all the time in the world for all the reasons that you've just talked about around Utah. And Utah is a fascinating watch for me going into the offseason, whenever that is, because they're far from finished. And if
Right.
they can add a
Yeah.
major player this offseason, they're going to do that. So, I'm not counting them out by any stretch. I just think that Vegas is just better prepared at this
Yeah.
point,
Oh,
is what I'm
you know what,
saying.
Dregs? there is something there is something to the been there, done that
Mhm.
experience, size,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and I think, as you just were talking, I'm like, they don't feel like one of those teams that, oh, they're experienced, but they're old.
right.
There's, like every team gets to that point where you start remembering what they were, not what they are.
Yeah,
And Vegas is Vegas is too good yet
yeah.
to look at them like that. So in a rare moment,
Uh-oh.
I'm I'm it bothers me to agree, but I'm going to
It's a
flip my
mulligan.
pick here. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
going to flip
okay.
my pick. Like now, I'm in my new FootJoy hoodie. Thanks, Mitch
Yes.
Peacock. Thank you very much.
Mitch
On the way to the
Dawson, but
court,
Mitch
did I say?
Peacock's a
Oh,
nice
oh,
man
you know
too.
who I said?
Yeah.
Did I say that? What?
Yes.
Where would that come from?
I don't
Who's
know, but
that?
it's outstanding.
Who's
He's a
that? Who is
reporter.
that?
He's
I
like a
don't.
host.
Yeah,
Mitch
but why would
Peacock.
I?
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
Mitch, both
No,
men.
but
Mitch
no,
Dawson.
but
Yeah.
that is unbelievable. Oh my God, because I'm wearing his shit. It's amazing. So I'm taking
Mitch
my
Kersner,
mulligan.
how many Mitches do you
I
know?
know
Mitch
three.
Marner, like
No,
okay.
that's four. Oh, now you're
Yeah.
really going to screw me up.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so thanks to Mitch Marner for the jersey. So I'm taking my mulligan. I'm going to pick Vegas.
Okay.
You've
Yeah,
talked
me
me
too.
into it.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but
Well,
you
there
were
you go.
firm in your pick. I was
Yeah,
not.
that was firm. Yeah. I was going to suggest that we go all the way through Eastern Conference, Western Conference finalists, and Stanley Cup finalists.
No,
I wonder
don't
if
do
we
that.
save that for early next week, right?
Yeah,
Because it
well,
does.
but Dregs, we're going to be wrong in half
Yeah.
these series. Why don't we do it round by round? Can we do
Okay.
that?
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
no? Or
Well,
does
we've
that not
already done
work
the
for you?
first round. No, that works
That's
for
what I
me.
mean.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, we'll do it round by round. Fair enough. Okay. Um, Canadian Brewhouse headlines, and we're going to wrap up, but we have a little meat left on the bone here. We're going to wrap up with the major award. Okay. And who you're a voter, I'm a voter. So we're showing our hand a little bit here, obviously, because the submissions
Right.
need to be in 5 o'clock Eastern on Friday. I'm about 90% through mine. I'm one of those people. I admire how you approach it because we all put a lot of thought into it, right? I hope all of us who are
Mhm.
given the privilege to
All right.
vote do. I'm one of those guys, and I had this conversation with Frankie Corrado on Tuesday. I flip flop. And when you start flip flopping, you
Mm,
get yourself in trouble
yeah.
because you talk yourself. Of course, if you're putting five names on the Hart or five names on the Norris or any of the major awards, they should be noteworthy and qualified submissions, right? So I got to get it done today, Thursday. Otherwise,
Mhm.
I'll be sleepless tonight. So
No,
start with the Hart.
I do mine earlier in the week.
You
And one of
do,
the
you do,
reasons
you
is I
do.
don't think the last two or three games are going to matter. Like
No,
they shouldn't
yeah,
make me change
no,
my vote because it's a season long one. But
yeah.
for the very reason that you talk about, I don't want to listen when everybody starts publicly talking about,
Yeah.
oh, I would vote for this guy. Pretty soon your own thoughts get muddled.
Yeah.
And
You're swayed.
I just think
Yeah.
I think it's the wrong way for me anyway, to approach it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it creates anxiety, and none of us need more of that.
Oh
And
no,
you
certainly
want to do it
not.
right. That's what you want to do. Okay. So let's start with the Hart. Who do you see? Who do you expect is going to win the Hart this year?
Okay, I'm going to start off like the season, or like picking these playoff winners. I found a log jam in a lot of the voting. Like
Yeah.
I in some I could get five names, and then the order was a problem. The Norris, I got about nine guys.
Yeah. It's
And
hard.
I'm like, that one's a really difficult one for me. So, but for the Hart, I'm are we supposed to talk about our votes, or are we supposed to talk
Not
about the
really.
five guys? Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to say the five guys I've got on in the mix,
In the
in
mix
no
there.
particular, yeah, in the no particular order. Of course, McDavid, of course, McKinnon, of course, Celebrini, Pasternak is one of my guys. I think he's got 100 points in the Bruins are
Yeah.
not a gifted offensive team. So like those are some of the names that
Yeah.
I've got in there. I look again, it's not the, Celebrini has to be there to me. I don't know how somebody could be much more valuable to their team than he is, and that's the criteria of the award.
Yeah.
I know some people will say, well, they didn't make the playoffs. Yeah,
I hear that
yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, like I understand it. But McDavid, Kucherov, McKinnon, Pasternak, Celebrini, like, man, these are all Nick Suzuki. These are all really critical players to their team. So
Yeah.
those are the guys around my ballot.
Same ballot essentially, and you just named 5, 6 guys, right? And
Mhm.
that's kind of where we're at. The one thing that I'm struggling with, and Nick Suzuki made a case. He
Sure he
definitely
did.
made a
Yep.
case. He's not the guy I'm struggling with, to be fair. Um, I'm looking at the Norris ballot, and I'm thinking, Erasmus Dahlin, a hell of a year. Zach Werenski, a hell of a year. Like, is it once again time for one of those guys to also be recognized in the Hart conversation? And that's
Sure.
kind of what I'm
Oh,
toying
oh,
with. Yeah.
well, you know what? Absolutely, they should. Like, uh, there is the thought that look, the defensemen have their own award, and they should stay in that
Yeah.
lane.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Now maybe there should be a best forward as well. If you want the Hart to truly be um, an interconnected award, there should be a best forward and a best defenseman,
Yeah.
because then that frees the voters into into interspersing their choices.
Mhm.
Or does it just become another award that you shouldn't touch? So
Right.
right now it does feel like, unless a defenseman just overshoots it all,
Mhm.
they're not going to win them. They're not going to win the Hart. That's what it feels like, because they've got their own
Yeah.
award.
Okay. So let's shift to that. And I mean, it's a collection of great names. I mentioned
Yeah,
Werenski, Dahlin, Cale Makar obviously is high on that list.
yeah,
Wouldn't surprise me the number of top votes that Cale Makar is likely to get.
yeah,
Evan Bouchard,
yeah.
there's some who
Oh,
struggle with the fumbling and the bumbling, in the first 20 games or so,
yeah,
the giveaways, all of that stuff. And the one thing that I learned from guys that I deal with, former Norris Trophy winners, and you kind of touched on it earlier in terms of the work that's invested to get to the point where you're comfortable making your votes, is that it's a season-long assessment.
yeah.
It's a season-long assessment. And so I'm struggling with where Bouchard is in the conversation, because you put 5 names on there. Lane Hudson has had a hell of a year for the Montreal Canadiens, Quinn Hughes for the
Mhm.
Minnesota Wild. What about Mo
You're already,
Seider?
yeah,
Like,
you're already over the limit,
I'm already
right?
over the
Way over
limit.
the limit. And
Yeah.
like, uh, I'm almost certain I will have Mo Seider somewhere on my ballot. If you look, if you now, I know it's not a career award. He's never missed a game in his
Oh,
NHL career. He
so
plays
good
25,
defensively.
26
Yeah.
minutes a night. Nobody has had more blocks and hits in that time frame than Mo Seider. Like, he doesn't
Yeah.
play easy minutes. He had a career high in points, and so I'm like, okay, he's got to be on the ballot. Well, Werenski's got to be on the ballot for sure.
For sure.
Makar's got to be on the ballot. Bouchard's on mine for sure. Even though, like, early in the year, like you said, it's like, man, he had a left-handed stick. I'm not real sure what was going on. And then you get, oh, Quinn Hughes. And
Yeah.
okay, so now, oh, but wait a minute, Lane Hudson had as many points as Quinn Hughes.
I-
And defensively, Lane Hudson and Quinn Hughes are pretty similar, I think.
yeah,
Like,
they're
I
pretty
know you
similar.
can, I saw some people talking yesterday, oh, Quinn Hughes was on for X number of 5-on-5 goals against. Don't forget, the first 40 games of the year, he played on the worst defensive team in the league.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
those numbers are going to be inflated a bit. So, anyways, those are the names around my ballot, and
Yeah. Same.
I think without question, the Norris was the hardest vote for me.
Yeah. I just like the idea that, and we'll move on here to the Calder, which in fairness is an easier conversation.
Yeah,
I like the idea, and Scott Niedermayer, Chris Pronger remind me of this. Normally the Norris goes to usually the top point getter. Historically,
right,
kind of that's been the. This year, you've got a collection of well-rounded defensemen, right? For
right.
the you do in that conversation. So
Yeah,
by definition of the Norris Trophy, that's what it should be. That's what it's supposed to be. We've just been swayed over the years by offensive defensemen who just literally take the league by storm, right?
right.
So this year's a little bit different. Okay, yeah, Calder, Matthew Schaefer, and we move on. I mean, you
Yeah.
can make name. We can come up with
Well, I'll
Seneca.
give you a couple. I'll give you,
Yeah,
Seneca,
yeah,
Demidov, Dobish,
yeah. Dobish,
Ryan,
sure.
Ryan Leonard, had 20 goals this year.
Nikishin,
Like all Nikishin, all really good picks. But Schaefer's lapped the field. I mean,
yeah.
amazing what he's done this year.
Vezina challenge for you?
Yes.
Me too. That's why I
Yeah.
asked you
Well, I
first.
mean, like they all are, I guess. But so when you get there, I mean, Vasilevskiy, Sorokin.
Yeah,
Sorokin had an amazing
those
year,
top two, I would think. Yeah.
are pretty easy. Jeremy Swayman was fantastic in
Mhm.
Boston. You look at his like the volume of shots and the volume of high danger shots that he has to deal with,
Yeah.
um, and his numbers are terrific. I mean, I think without getting too deep, like because we're not supposed to, but I think that's my ballot right there.
Yeah, okay.
Those three guys.
Yeah, and I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, the numbers are what they are, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
influence, the impact of those individuals on their team, well noted. Okay, I don't have a vote in the Jack Adams process, but um, I mean, I again, there's a few, if not more than a few, deserving names and
sure.
candidates, right? How do you look past Dan Muse and the Pittsburgh Penguins? Lindy Ruff, a general manager and Kevin Adams gets fired, and the Buffalo Sabres just take off. Well, it's not because they fired Kevin Adams. I mean, maybe they installed mirrors in the room and guys started to hold themselves
You might be
accountable
on
or
you might be onto something there.
listen to Lindy. I don't know. But
Um,
is there someone who
um,
has an edge for you?
yeah. Well, I'm going to throw two more names in. Marty St. Louis
Yeah.
had a who picked
In the
Montreal
conversation.
but who
No,
picked Montreal to have 106 points?
no,
Nobody. No
nobody.
chance. Um, I've said this before. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that John Cooper hasn't won a Coach of the Year award
Yeah.
because of the guys we're talking about, one of them's going to the Hall of Fame, and
Yeah.
that's the guy that
Yeah.
has never won.
Straight too. Yeah.
So Muse, St. Louis, Cooper, Ruff, Marco Sturm, those would
Hmm.
be like Marco Sturm's done a terrific job in Boston. He
Yeah.
might be behind the pack a bit, but he's another name that I'll give consideration to.
And Bednar, just the team is so good and there's nothing new
Yeah,
there. Just, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Sometimes having a good team really hurts you in
It
this
does.
voting.
Yeah.
Um, uh, the one thing about Cooper I will say is this year Tampa played without 7 defensemen
Hmm.
through the course of the year, and they still got 106 points. I mean, you could say, oh, they got Vasilevskiy, which they do, and they're really fortunate to have him, but still, that speaks highly on the coaching staff, I believe.
All right. All great stuff. And man, we're going to have a lot more to work through as we get into the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. This is the Tim Hortons Ray and Dregs playoff edition. And those are your headlines. So thank you to the Canadian Brewhouse. It feels like Tim Hortons has always been part of my routine, certainly as a dad. As a coach or taking my kids to the early morning hockeys, had to go through the drive-through and get my cup of coffee and get the Timbits for the kids. Can I get a medium coffee with milk, please? Then even driving in the studio now at TSN. If I don't go through the drive-thru, get my medium coffee with milk, I feel like my routine has been interrupted.
Here's your coffee.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
You too. Only way to start a day. Just because we had so much going on, we're going to move past Ask Ray and Dregs anything for this week, but we'll dive in next week when, again, we've got some series matchups to continue to dissect, and I'm sure the fans of each individual club, each individual series will have questions as things are unfolding, so we'll get to that. But it's time to check in on the Tim's Hockey Challenge. Right?
I don't think we should.
And we've got Chris Sabunia, who's standing by to eagerly give us the results of a telling week. It's not over, but a somewhat telling week, Zuby.
I
Yeah,
believe-
sure. Go ahead, Zuby.
Unless we've changed the rules for the final night, I believe it is over. I believe officially it is over.
Way to do good math there, Zuby. Good maths.
I think this could be, as I referenced earlier in the season, the Bill Needles mailbag episode where it's just short. I could just come in. It's over. See you guys. We'll try it again. No, so
congratulations.
So Dregs got one. I think it's official now. So congratulations in order. Dregs finishes with well, we'll see what happens tonight. But he's got 42 out of 129. So Dregs, you got one on the day of our Monday show. Ray unfortunately did not get one, so 38. So he's 4 behind. You only get to choose 3. I don't know if there's some sort of bonus point we could possibly award tonight if Ray went 3 for 3.
I just didn't want to go through premature celebration.
Well, I'm telling you, to channel my Rick Bowness, things will not be the same next year. We will. The standards will. I got to change the culture of these picks. This is outrageous.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, we have the playoff challenge coming up. We don't know all the ins and outs of that yet, but it's coming. The Tim's Hockey Playoff Challenge is coming. So we'll get to it. Will not be a continuation, a new competition. So everything will be fresh and new, and we'll take another stab at it. Schauger, a footnote at this point, he also got 0. So he finished at 27. Oh my goodness. 11 back of Ray and another 15 back, I guess, of Dregs. And I did get 1 on Monday, but my totals have really dropped off as well. I've got 134 correct, down to 27. I was clicking at 30% for a while, down to 27% for the year. So Alex Tuck did come through for me on Monday. That was my only one, but we're winding it down here, fellas.
So Zuby, for next season, does Schauger get in the lottery? And maybe we could give him an extra pick each second week or something. I don't know.
Well, at least I think he would be wise to consult with Randine at the very least before he makes his picks, because I think she did a lot better than he did. So maybe we allow him to be in a team format of some type.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, last question about Rishaug then. Will he be at a mom's house by then? By next season?
God willing, I'm sure he, it's nice. You know what? I think he said there's far more good at being with Donna than certainly there is bad at. She's had the opportunity to meet her,
sure.
And she's wonderful. And I think though I think they're back now into their own house. Their bedroom's been painted, so that was some of the intel I got that I'm probably not supposed to say. But
what kind of intel are you getting? Now you're getting bedroom intel. What the hell is
going
on there?
He said, I asked him that. He said, we were back in our, last night and the bedroom got painted. And then he goes, here, let me show you. And I was like, whoa, no. But he wasn't in the bedroom. He was in the kitchen. So, okay. No,
he is an oversharer.
Yeah.
He is an oversharer. Good stuff, Zuby. Well, we look forward to the playoff edition of the Tim's Hockey Challenge.
Fellas.
We'll check in
next
week. Thank you. All right, Ray, before we get going here and brace ourselves for what's a busy weekend, and the playoffs in general, very, very busy. I thought it would be fitting to just offer congratulations to longtime Toronto Maple Leafs play-by-play guy, Joe Bowen, who called his final game on Wednesday night in the Battle of Ontario. 44 years of painting the blue and white picture. And man, did Joe do it with pizzazz, humor, just an incredible eye too. You know, one of those voices, and this is what I appreciate, and I think you do too. And you've worked with some great play-by-play guys over the years. Just that ability to build the intensity, and especially you get it on radio when you're driving, right? And you can just tell by the elevation of the voice that something big is about to happen, you know? And I always got that from Joe Bone. You don't stay in the chair as long as Bonesy did without having something special. And he did it for 44 years. So congrats on a great career.
Amazing career, like one that most of us could never even fathom. The length and the impact that he had with a fan base. It's not like they were zipping through Stanley Cup runs there either. And him and Jim Ralph made it, you know, it was funny. And when they would get the giggles, like I really love that stuff. Like when they, you know, like that's, but Joe's, you're right, the ability to build the play, I think is lost on many young play-by-play people today, where they start like Spinal Tap at 11. And like you look up, you know, like say you're in the kitchen and you hear something, you turn around and you're like, the puck's in the neutral zone. Like that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be an ebb and a flow. And Joe, with his great voice and knack for the game and the job, he did it as well as anybody. And
he did.
Congrats, Joe, like the amazing career.
Correct. All right, Ray. Well, good luck to you. First of all, you've got to sort out where you're going, all the travel arrangements along with
I'm on
that,
a plane tomorrow. I just don't know where.
Plane. Okay. Well, we look forward to watching it all unfold and then checking back 2-3 games in, probably early next week.
Can't wait to get started. To everybody, I hope your team does great, and I hope your teams all win the Stanley Cup. And when they don't come and complain to me.
Exactly right. All right.
Enjoy the first weekend, everybody. Thanks for listening.
And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Tim Hortons, our title sponsor. Thank you. And thank you to the Canadian Brew House as well. Until next time, stay safe, everybody. Enjoy the playoffs.